Hi guys, today I wanted to go ahead and film a recap video of my first trimester of pregnancy. My husband and I are expecting our first baby and it is due on February 24th of 2018. So I wanted to go ahead and go back. I'm past my first trimester now, but I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about my experience as my first pregnancy and kind of how we found out, go over like the doctor's visits that I had, and just talk a little bit about what I've experienced so far. So this is going to be my first trimester recap. Things before we get started, I have a little list over to the side here, so if I'm looking over, that is why. And this lovely background, I know, driving me nuts. This is the baby's nursery. But right now, obviously, we have a couch in here. This right here is a guest bed, and then we have the baby's little sleeper in here. Just kind of a storage room until after the baby shower. I'm gonna have some family coming to stay for the baby shower, so once that is done and over with, I can go ahead and start clearing out the room and getting baby's things put in here. So just a few disclaimers before we get started. Now let's go ahead and jump into the update. So we found out that I was pregnant on June 23rd, and it's kind of a funny story. I work at a doctor's office, and I actually had a prescription for birth control called in for me on Tuesday, and then on Friday I found out that I was pregnant. So I was obviously waiting to start my period before I started the prescription, and my period never came. So that is kind of a funny story of how we found out. And I remember telling my husband, my period's really late, so I'm like 99% sure I'm not pregnant, but I'll just go ahead and take a test in the morning. If it's negative, then we'll go pick up my birth control. I'm sure that I'm just irregular. I don't know what's going on, but you know. And so I took a test, and it was just one of the cheap dollar store pregnancy tests, and it came out positive, and I was shocked. So I got out one of our nicer pregnancy tests, one of the first response tests, because I was like, okay, well, it's a dollar store test, maybe it's wrong. So I took a second test, and it was also positive. And then I went to work and had the nurse give me a third pregnancy test, and it was positive as well. So 3 positive pregnancy tests means definitely pregnant. So I called my mom that morning. She lives in Hawaii, and I told her the good news, and she was excited. We sat there on the phone and cried. And we went and told my husband's parents that night, and they were super excited. They cried. So yeah, that's how everyone found out. So when I found out, I was 4 weeks and 6 days along, so right about 5 weeks. And as soon as I found out, the next day, I was so nauseous, and the nausea was horrible. That 5th week of pregnancy was probably, honestly, the worst week of my life. I had no appetite. There was one day during that week that all I had to eat all day were chips and crackers, because that's all that I could stomach. I didn't actually end up throwing up at all, but I was so nauseous, zero appetite, didn't want anything. I was eating popsicles and crackers like crazy, and I was just very, very sick. I'm planning on doing a video all about my first trimester essentials and kind of what helped me get through that, because I didn't end up throwing up at all my first trimester, which I'm very, very lucky about that. But I ended up having a pretty mellow first trimester. I was so nauseous, and there were some days where I would just lay in bed and cry because I was so sick. But I didn't end up throwing up at all, and I think that I have a lot of tips and tricks as to why that is. So I can definitely film a video on that in the future. But moving on to week 6, I started feeling a lot better. I started telling the rest of my family, my grandparents, my aunts, and my cousins and everyone. And I scheduled my first doctor's appointment. So week 7, I went in to see the doctor for the first time. They had me give a urine sample, and then they did an internal ultrasound, and sure enough, there was a tiny little caterpillar, teeny tiny, inside of my uterus. So that was really cool. We got to see the baby, we got to hear the heartbeat, which was awesome. I thought that it was going to be way too early to hear the heartbeat, but we did get to hear it at 7 weeks, and that was super cool. And it was very emotional. I remember my husband cried. It was really awesome, and just to get that confirmation that everything was good, everything was looking good and sounding good was really cool. So we scheduled the next appointment for 5 weeks out, so it would be like my 12-week visit. So week 8, I noticed a really weak immune system, and I thought I was getting strep throat because I was coughing and I had a runny nose and I was super sick week 8, and that lasted for several weeks. Like, it took me a really long time to beat a cold, which is not usual for me. Normally I don't really get sick very often, but getting sick during pregnancy is like a whole different ball game. I was sick for a while, for weeks, and you can't really take anything when you're sick, so I wasn't really able to take any cough syrup or anything like that, so I just mostly had to suck on cough drops, and it was rough. It was pretty rough. Weeks 9, 10, and 11 were kind of more of the same. Not really any changes, still pretty nauseous, having to eat every few hours, snacking, and just trying to stay up on my meal times so that I didn't get nauseous. My husband really stepped up a lot, and he helped out with a ton of the housework. I still have not washed a single dish since I got sick in week 5. He's been really taking care of everything, taking out the garbage, cleaning out the fridge, doing the dishes, loading the dishwasher, doing the laundry. He has been so amazing this whole time, helping me out with everything, so that's awesome. I would not have been able to do this on my own, that's for sure, so he's been wonderful and so supportive and helpful, especially during the first trimester. Was pretty rough. I was very nauseous. I finally was able to get some nausea medication called in, so I was taking these little teeny tiny, like the smallest pill I've ever seen in my life. They're little dissolvable tablets, so you just put it in your mouth, tastes like cotton candy, and then it dissolves, and that helped my nausea a lot. Like I said, I will go ahead and do a whole video on my first trimester essentials and kind of talk about which essential oils I was using and what I was taking to help with the nausea and stuff. So I am planning on doing that video, so I'm not going to go into that too much here. This is just kind of more of a week by week breakdown of what was going on. So week 12, I had my second doctor's visit, and so I went in, gave another urine sample, they did some blood work on me, everything checked out fine, and I got to do another ultrasound, and the baby was huge. I don't know what I was expecting, because obviously I knew the difference between a 7-week baby and a 12-week baby was a lot, and it would be a lot bigger, but it was like huge, like took up my whole entire uterus, and you could see the baby moving around and kicking and wiggling, and we could actually see the heart inside of its chest beating, which was super cool. So we got to see like the profile, and of course the baby was facing down, so we didn't really get like a cute ultrasound picture, but it was really cool to see that everything was still looking really good. The heartbeat was great, growing at a great pace, so everything was all good. Week 13, my nausea came back with a vengeance. The very end of my first trimester, my nausea was horrible. I took several days off of work that week, and it got so bad to the point where the only time that I was even semi-comfortable and the only time that I could relax was if I took a bath. So something about being in the warm water really helped soothe the baby. I don't know if it was just the fact that it became really weightless once I was in the water, or if the warm water was just relaxing, but I literally lived in the bathtub for that whole entire last little bit of my first trimester. I seriously was taking 2 or 3 baths a day. Every single meal I had to eat in the bathtub because I was just sick and miserable. It was pretty rough. So that is kind of how my first trimester has gone. Like I said, I've been very fortunate. I haven't been sick at all. Very nauseous, but no puking, so that's good. Mostly all good so far. I haven't had any complications. There have been no issues with the baby. I am still down 9 pounds from my pre-pregnancy weight, so overall in my whole first trimester I lost about 9 pounds. Haven't put any of it back on yet. So yeah, some of my cravings, pretty much anything pizza related, barbecue chips, lots of pasta, been craving cereal, so basically just a lot of carbs. I have noticed that soda during my first trimester was really hard on my stomach. Something about the carbonation would make me so nauseous, so I completely cut off of soda and was drinking a lot of like vitamin water and life water, and lots of bottles of water. So I had to get an IV one time right at the beginning, right after I found out during that week 5 when I was super sick. I did have to go ahead and get an IV, but I was at work, so it was no big deal. I just had the nurse go ahead and put one in for me, but I got pretty dehydrated right there towards the beginning. But other than that, I've been able to keep up with it pretty well, and I've been feeling pretty good. That is a recap of my first trimester and how everything went. So I'm planning on filming a lot more of these pregnancy update videos. I would love to start doing more like one a week or one every couple weeks, combining a few weeks, something like that. I loved watching these videos even before I got pregnant, but especially as soon as I found out I was pregnant, I would go back to all of my favorite YouTuber mommies and watch all of their pregnancy recap videos and kind of see like what to expect and what was gonna happen throughout the pregnancy. So that was kind of fun. So I'm hoping that I can have something like that, not only to look back on, but maybe for some of you, if you are pregnant, to see kind of what to expect and how pregnancy goes, for me at least. So I'm really excited to do these. Like I said, I really want to have these to look back on in the future. After I have the baby, I definitely want to someday show my child videos of when I was pregnant and kind of what I went through and what I experienced. So I think that this will be super fun. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more of these videos. Leave me a comment down below and let me know if there are any other pregnancy videos you would be interested in seeing, and I can definitely go ahead and film some of those. And I think that is it for this video, so I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.